Hey, it's Jordan with Jordan. It is Monday, April 16th. This is my second live stream of the day. I went live earlier on breaking news regarding the Flint water crisis. Uh, Tell me if you see anything differently here right now. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I'm live. Do 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 do. What will be, will be. All right, we are live. Now, if you haven't noticed, I took an arts and crafts class earlier today. I took an arts and crafts class, and I put my sign up behind me. I think my business partner Jen. Uh, I think my business partner Jen is going to love my new backdrop. I have a friend here who set it up for me. So we got a little backdrop. We got a little lighting. I don't know if the lighting is good. You'll have to tell me. Because what I think is I could sell out. I could go work for some corporation and be in a professional studio and all those things. Or I could keep it real. And go live right here from the confines of my apartment. I could have a sign attached on duct tape behind me and let the content speak for itself. Carl says I don't get the obsession with the lighting. I don't either, but some people have complained about the lighting. I am in an apartment. There's not much I could do about the lighting. I don't have a professional tech person yet. So this is the best I could do. But let me know in the chat if you like the new setup, if you like the new backdrop, if you like the sign behind me. Obviously, I'm currently crowdfunding to launch a new media network. We announced the name of that new media network on Friday. Thank you to Jimmy Dore, good friend, progressive media hero. He had me on his program. I think it went up Friday. And we've gotten a lot of new YouTube subscribers. We've got a lot of new patrons. And we are really revving up this Patreon. You could listen to my podcast at the Patreon. You could listen to my video diaries, which give you a little bit more behind the scenes. And this is the Media Revolution, folks. This is the Media Revolution, live from my apartment. Somebody says the camera's pointing too high. Tell me if that's okay. I put it down a little bit. So there's a lot of things in the news right now. If you don't know, the media is now absolutely... Oh, now I cut off my Patreon sign. Hold on. I want to make sure you see my Patreon sign, so what can I tell you? Well, it's better for you, but I need to have my Patreon sign shown. So we'll work on that. I'm going to work on everything. It's going to come, what did Hillary Clinton say? Change comes in increments. We're going to have change here in the presentation in increments. So maybe there's a little bit too much headspace. And thank you to my brother, Jonathan Sarandon, who just pledged $1 a month for my Patreon. I can't thank you enough, John, for your generous contribution. I don't need to say it. It's right behind me. By the way, 7 o'clock tonight, 7 p.m. tonight, we are doing a live video chat for my patrons. Live video chat with me for my patrons. I'm going to be talking more about the network that we're trying to launch and answering your questions. So definitely, if you want to become a patron, right now we are at 292 patrons. You could subscribe at $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, whatever you could do. This is the funds that's going to help me get out into the country, going to help me hire other reporters. So Jen, please put up that link. If you want to be on this 7 p.m. Eastern, that's 4 p.m. Pacific, you could click on that link. It's for patrons only. So I will be talking video form to the patrons. Thank you so much to all of those who have subscribed over the weekend. And I hope you like my new setup with the duct tape. Thank you to my friend Anthony for setting that up. So I went live a little earlier on the disgraceful comment made by Michigan Governor Rick Snyder that the people of Flint should just get over it. No, 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 I'm not making that up. The governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder, literally said, get over it, in a conversation with the mayor of Flint about the pods, the water pods being shut down. So I went live a few hours ago. That video is up. We'll cut it up later to be shorter, but the whole video is up. So I'm going to do another story on Flint, not right now, but I'm going to do another story about Flint a little bit later in this. You know, I don't particularly take joy in talking about Hillary Clinton anymore. I'd like her to go away. Not because I'm sexist, not because I'm mansplaining, as Joy Reid likes to say. I have no problem with Hillary Clinton making a living. I have no problem with Hillary Clinton going to speak at conferences. Do what you want to do, Miss Clinton. No problem. But I do have a problem with the astounding lack of self-awareness exuded by Miss Clinton and her allies in the corporate media. So I saw this tweet, and as a reminder, if you want to be on this call at 7 o'clock with me, video call, you'll see my ugly face, 7 o'clock, subscribe to become a patron, $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, or $10 a month, whatever you want. Jen is going to send you guys the link. So, look at this tweet from Miss Hillary Clinton. Oops, hold on. Hold on, 1 second. Gotta get it up. Huh. Of course, why would it work when I'm live? Why would this work? Why would this work? Oh, here we go. So, look at this tweet by Hillary Clinton. Storytelling is at the heart of every cultural and political revolution. Looking forward to joining women in the world. Hold on. Looking forward to joining women in the world tomorrow for brave women who will share accounts of living under tyrants and discuss threats to democracies around the world at home. Doesn't that sound great? Hillary Clinton's going to join the Women in the World conference tomorrow with 4 brave women who will share accounts of living under tyrants and discuss threats to democracies around the world and at home. Now, to be clear, folks, I'm not against Hillary Clinton going to speak on panels. I'm not against Hillary Clinton showcasing other brave young women who live abroad, their stories of living under tyrants. I think that's really important, even though I don't like Hillary Clinton. I don't like her policies. I got a lot of problems with Hillary Clinton. We're not against showcasing and exposing and enlightening the world as to the terrible conditions that young women and young boys are living around all over the world. So I'm not against it. What I am against is the insane lack of self-awareness from Hillary Clinton. Listen, look at this tweet one more time, folks. No, that's me. Hold on. Storytelling is at the heart of every cultural and political revolution. Looking forward to joining Women in the World tomorrow with 4 brave women who will share accounts of living under tyrants and discuss threats to democracies around the world and at home. Well, why don't you ask those 4 brave women who are sharing accounts of living under tyrants how they feel about you, your husband, and your State Department funding tyrants around the world? Anybody else find a little inconsistency here? Anybody else find a little inconsistency where Hillary Clinton wants to sit on a panel and showcase brave women who are, talking about the tyranny they live in around the world? And by the way, these 4 brave women, I'm sure, actually do live under tyrants. But the problem is, Hillary Clinton helped create those tyrants and fund those tyrants and weaponize those tyrants. And by the way, it's not just Hillary Clinton. We have in corporate media, I went live on Saturday about the missiles that were dropped on Syria. We're launching, essentially, we're going to launch another war based on no evidence before inspectors could even go in and actually test the chemical weapons, see who actually is responsible. Trump dropped 100 Tomahawks on 3 chemical sites in Syria and other sites, too, that didn't get reported. And the same usual suspects were on CNN, MSNBC, in the pages of the New York Times. You know, it's funny. In one breath, for a year, they've been calling Trump a wimp. You had Howard Dean literally tweet, Trump's a wimp. So Trump's not tough enough. He's a Kremlin puppet. And then when he starts dropping the bombs, then all of a sudden they moonwalk faster than Michael Jackson, and they're not okay with this. Majority of them were, because they love war. They love bombing other countries. They love killing innocent civilians. But they weren't okay with Trump doing it. So they called him a wimp for a year, and then there's people coming out against Trump. But this mentality where we're against tyrants from other countries and we're against Bashar al-Assad, even though the U.S. has been funding Saudi Arabia, Hillary Clinton's State Department funded Saudi Arabia a hell of a lot of money so they could weaponize, and Saudi Arabia has done unspeakable things to their women citizens. Unspeakable things. And, you know, this new Saudi prince is called, like, modern, and he's improving conditions, and women can now, like, walk around more freely. And that's great, if that's true. I don't know if it's true, to tell you the truth. I'm not a foreign reporter. But what I do know is when Hillary Clinton was in the State Department, she funded Saudi Arabia a lot of money. According to this article, Hillary Clinton's State Department armed Saudi Arabia to the teeth. To the teeth. While Saudi Arabia and Boeing poured cash into the Clinton Foundation, Hillary Clinton's State Department approved enormous sales of Boeing fighter jets to the kingdom of tyranny that has tyrants that treat women and young children awfully. Here we go. As Hillary Clinton emerges, this is from years ago, by the way. As Hillary Clinton emerges as the frontrunner for the Democratic Party's presidential candidate, she's receiving increased scrutiny for her years as Secretary of State, and in particular, her hawkish foreign policy. Many critics are focused especially on her long relationship with Saudi Arabia. On Christmas Eve 2011, Hillary Clinton and her closest aides celebrated a $29.4 billion with a B, sale of over 80 F-15 fighter jets manufactured by U.S.-based Boeing Corporation to Saudi Arabia. In a chain of enthusiastic emails, an aide exclaimed that it was, quote, not a bad Christmas present. Well, first of all, as a Jew, I'm offended. Where was the Hanukkah sale of arms? We only send arms to Saudi Arabia on Christmas? What about equal time for Jews? I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. I don't want arms sent on Christmas, on Hanukkah. But Carl said chutzpah. I agree, Carl. That is some chutzpah from Hillary Clinton. We send bombs on Christmas, not on Hanukkah. And don't forget Kwanzaa. I digress. Let's get back to this. These are the very fighter jets the Saudis have been using to bomb Yemen since March 2015. A year later, at least 2,800 Yemeni civilians have been killed, mostly by airstrikes, and there's no end in sight. By the way, this piece is from March 8th, 2016. It's a hell of a lot more than 2,800 Yemeni civilians have been killed by the weapons of Saudi Arabia funded from the United States. The indiscriminate Saudi strikes have killed journalists and ambulance drivers. They've hit the Chamber of Commerce, facilities supported by Médecins Sans Frontières, also known as Doctors Without Borders, a wedding hall, and a center for the blind. The attacks have also targeted ancient heritage sites in Yemen. International human rights organizations are saying that Saudi-led strikes on Yemen may amount to war crimes. I think we could drop that pretense. These are war crimes. And during her tenure as Secretary of State, Clinton made weapons transfers to the Saudi government a top priority. And why do you think she did that? Anybody got a guess why Hillary Clinton made transfers of weapons to Saudi Arabia a top priority? And please press this share button. Get this out to as many people as possible. Unfortunately, there's some algorithm changes at YouTube which has suppressed content like this. And Jimmy Dore and Jamal Thomas and Mike of the Humanist Report and Kyle of Secular Talk, YouTube isn't sending our content out as much. It's not in people's feeds as much, so we need you more than ever to press the share button. So why did Hillary Clinton fund Saudi Arabia? Follow the money, Lebowski. Follow the money, Lebowski. Here's The Intercept. The claim that this is all just about trying to help people in need should not even pass a laugh test, let alone rational scrutiny. To see how true that is, just look at who some of the biggest donors to the Clinton Foundation are. Although it did not give while she was Secretary of State, the Saudi regime by itself has donated between 10 million and 25 million to the Clinton Foundation, with donations coming as late as 2014 as Ms. Clinton prepared her presidential run. A group called Friends of Saudi Arabia, oh Jesus, co-founded by a Saudi prince, gave an additional amount between 1 million and 5 million. The Clinton Foundation says that between 1 million and 5 million was also donated by the state of Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and the government of Brunei. The state of Kuwait has donated between $5 million and $10 million. Theoretically, one could say that these regions, among the most repressive and regressive in the world, are donating because they deeply believe in the charitable work of the Clinton Foundation and want to help those in need. Is there a single person on the planet who actually believes this? By the way, this was written by the great Glenn Greenwald. I'm just going to highlight that. Is there a single person on the planet who actually believes this? I'm just going to edit Glenn Greenwald's piece for a second, and I hate to edit Glenn Greenwald because he's a hero of mine, but I would add, is there a single person on the planet other than Neera Tanden who actually believes this? Is Clinton loyalty really so strong that people are going to argue with a straight face that the reason the Saudi, Qatari, Kuwaiti, and Emirates regimes donated large amounts of money to the Clinton Foundation is because those regimes simply want to help the foundation achieve its magnanimous goals? Here's one of the Clinton Foundation's principal objectives. Decide for yourself if its tyrannical donors are acting with the motives of advancing the charitable goal. This is a little hard to read on the screen for you. I'll read it. We're working towards a world where more girls and women can achieve full participation in all aspects of life. I think that's great. Despite significant progress over the last several decades towards girls and women's full participation, gaps still remain. Our program empowers girls and women to participate more fully in the social and economic life of their communities by expanding access to education and training, supporting women farmers and entrepreneurs, promoting economic opportunity and job creation, improving health outcomes. Here we go. Saudi Arabia's top cleric defends female driving ban, saying women would be exposed to evil. So, to be clear, you know, Hillary Clinton, I'm not blaming Hillary Clinton for Saudi Arabia's history of brutalization against women. They've kidnapped women, they've raped women, they've done terrible things to women. But she's talking about going on a panel at the Women of the World conference to showcase 4 brave women who are living under tyrants. Does she know she's partly responsible for empowering those tyrants? Does she not know this? Does she know it but thinks none of the rest of the world knows it? And this is about more than Hillary Clinton, because this alternative reality and this sociopathy, thank you, Anthony. Sociopathy is pervasive through not just the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the corporate media. I mean, Jake Tapper literally said today on his air, obviously America's not fascist. And I had to tweet, I guess you weren't paying attention during Standing Rock, when the publicly funded police department was literally brutalizing unarmed Americans who, for the crime of protesting a pipeline so that they could defend a corporation or a big oil company. That's a definition of fascism. Jen dies. My business partner texted me, "Are you drunk?" No, I'm not drunk. Where's my Fiji water? Can I have my Fiji water? This is all I've been drinking all day, Jen. Fiji. You think I'm drunk because I'm passionate? How dare you, Jen dies. Words are hard. It's actually because of the lighting. I'm not drunk. Stop spreading internet rumors, Jen dies. No, I haven't drank yet. I'm going to have my first mango wheat beer probably at 8 p.m. I'll probably have 2 and then do what I always do, wake up twice to pee. Onward. So what's amazing to me is Hillary Clinton, her foundation, which, by the way, I do believe the Clinton Foundation has done some good around the world. Just because I don't like Hillary Clinton or her policies, I'm sure there's been some good done by the Clinton Foundation. But how dare Hillary Clinton be tweeting and going on panels that she's some, purveyor of, brave women and she's fighting for women when you have literally, your State Department was like a money funnel for tyrants. And it wasn't just Saudi Arabia, by the way. There were other countries she was giving weapons to. So even though she hopefully isn't running for president for the 75th time, and even though she is now out of public life, when I see this, I have to call it out. Because Hillary Clinton, make no mistake, the Clintonites are still running the Democratic Party. The people who defend Hillary Clinton are still backing the Democratic Party. They are still at the head of the table. They are still the ones who refuse to get behind Medicare for all. They are still the ones who refuse to get behind ending private prisons. They are still the ones that refuse to get behind free public college tuition. They are still the ones that are hooting and hollering about Russia, but they can't find time to hoot and holler about an American city poisoned going on 4 years who has now had the water taken away from them. So Nestle could get 400 gallons a minute from Michigan and not pay anything, but the impoverished citizens of Flint can't get anything. You hear that coming from Hillary Clinton's side of the Democratic Party? I don't. Rob says, I'm drinking Arizona green tea spiked with ginseng and honey. That sounds delicious. My throat's been hurting, actually. I should have more green tea. So, what do I have to say to Hillary Clinton? This is going to be controversial. Please go fucking hang out in the woods. Leave us alone. Leave the world alone. Okay? I know Jimmy Dore would have a little bit of a stronger thing for me, but a little stronger sentiment. I don't want to scream too loudly. But I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of the hypocrisy. I'm sick of the lack of self-awareness. I'm sick of... Hillary Clinton is insulting my intelligence. She is insulting your intelligence. So when she says, storytelling is at the heart of every cultural and political revolution. Looking forward to joining the women of the world tomorrow with 4 brave women who will share accounts of living under tyrants and discuss threats to democracies around the world. I would love just once, whoever is a moderator for one of these panels, just ask Miss Clinton, well, what do you think about the tyrants you armed? What do you think about the tyrants your foundation has taken millions of dollars from? We're not talking about like $5. Speaking of, patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports. You can get my podcast, my video diaries. You could be on a call at 7 p.m. with me, a video call. I just throw that out there. Hillary Clinton, stop insulting our intelligence. And please, 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 let the progressive takeover happen slowly. Not slowly. Let it happen. Stop fighting. Stop fighting what's natural. You made enough money. You had your chance. Time to go. Time to go. And I want to thank the 2 new patrons we got since I've been live. We now have 294 patrons. And by the way, there's been some people who have criticized me a little bit for promoting my Patreon during the live streams. I'm trying to do that less. However, what do they say in life? If you don't ask for what you want, you don't get it. I'm not asking for money so I could go buy Fiji water. I'm asking for money so I could go back and cover Flint and cover other things. This is all to get the funds to get back in the field. So I'm not trying to clobber you over the head. I'm trying to get funds to get back in the field. And we are 100% transparent. You go to the Patreon right now. Here we go. Here it is. That's how many patrons we have, 294. That's how much money we have in there. I need money to hire a camera person. I need money to hire other reporters. I need money to buy one-time equipment that we need. I need money for business and advertising and all those things. So that's what it's for. It's not for anything else. So moving on. One Clinton story wasn't enough for me today. One Clinton story just wasn't enough for me today. And this isn't really Clinton, but it's kind of Clinton. So if you've been following, apparently the Democratic Party, they're blaming Susan Sarandon. Oh, by the way, sometimes the Patreon link, when Jen puts it in the chat, for some reason, YouTube, it's weird. Like it shows up 404 error. So if that happens, hate to tell you, just type it in yourself. It's right behind me. So literally, the Democratic Party blamed Susan Sarandon for the bombs in Syria. Like, I've heard some shit in my day, but that's a whole nother level. So I did a video on this over the weekend. So here we go. You had Jesse Ferguson say, I'd like to congratulate Susan Sarandon. Apparently, Susan Sarandon not endorsing Hillary Clinton is the reason CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post has been poking at Trump to stand up to Russia and to basically bomb Syria. Apparently, it's Susan Sarandon's fault for all that. From what I hear, Susan Sarandon is responsible for the Flint water crisis. She's responsible for Kennedy's assassination. She's responsible for all the water contamination we're seeing all across the country. She's responsible for Standing Rock water protectors getting shot at. She might even be responsible for us landing on the moon, which was a good thing. So, obviously, Susan Sarandon is the enemy we've all been looking for. She's responsible for the oligarchy. She's responsible for the environmental genocide. She's responsible for all of it, including President Trump dropping over 100, I believe it was, Tomahawk missiles on Syria, even though we don't have any evidence that Bashar al-Assad was the one who gassed his people. So Susan Sarandon responded to this stupidity with a link to a Reuters article. Ooh, excuse me. There you go. She responded to a link to that Reuters article. So let's take a look. What article was she talking about? Oh boy. Hillary Clinton calls for U.S. to bomb Syrian airfields. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. They're lacking so much self-awareness, folks, that they put these things out there and they don't even realize how stupid they sound, because all you have to do is Google it. All you have to do is Google it. Hillary Clinton called for bombing Syrian airfields. She said if she became president, she would have put a no-fly zone over Syria, which I don't think they'd be cool with that. I don't think Bashar al-Assad and their main ally, Russia, would just kind of be like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. We'll just be okay with that. So, in her first interview since her stunning presidential election defeat to Republican rival Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton on Thursday called for the U.S. to bomb Syrian airfields. Clinton, in an interview at the Women in the World Summit in New York, also called Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election a theft more damaging than Watergate. This was last year, this thing. So we've heard that Russian trolls were akin to Pearl Harbor from other Democratic establishment, and Hillary Clinton says Russian interference was Watergate. Okay. Asked whether she now believes that failing to take a tougher stand against Syria was her worst foreign policy mistake as Secretary of State under President Barack Obama, Clinton said she favored more aggressive action against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. I think we should have been more willing to confront Assad, Clinton said in an interview conducted by the New York Times. I really believe we should have and still could take out his airfields and prevent him from being able to use them to bomb innocent people and drop sarin gas on them. Clinton noted that she had advocated for a no-fly zone in Syria after leaving government, something that Obama denied. So she said that, I think in her first interview after Trump was elected, which kind of leads me to think if she was elected, we would have been dropping bombs on Syria way before Trump did. And honestly, put a gun to my head, I think she would have sent in ground troops too. Because the one piece I will encourage you to read from the New York Times, read it years ago, is How Hillary Became a Hawk. How Hillary Became a Hawk. So that will tell you everything you need to know. Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, basically encouraged Obama to go into every damn country. And before I'm accused of being sexist, before I'm accused of mansplaining, this is not me saying that Donald Trump is a great president. This is not me saying that he's not a con artist, warmonger too. Because he conned a lot of people into thinking he was some isolationist and let's get out of Syria and let's get out of everywhere. We need to build here and yada, yada, yada. And the people in Michigan and Wisconsin and Illinois and Ohio and Pennsylvania, they ate it up. They ate all that up. And I told people at the time it was nonsense. But the thing is, Hillary Clinton's people are blaming Susan Sarandon for Donald Trump dropping bombs on Syria when Hillary Clinton would have been at full-scale war with Syria at this point, and quite possibly even Russia. Victoria says, dude, you're not sexist for calling Hillary out. She's a huge warmonger. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just have to disclaim it because you know how the internet is these days. A lot of things get swirled around that aren't true. So, I mean, I'm exhausted. I hate having to talk about Hillary Clinton. I hate having to talk about the Democratic establishment. And if the corporate media wasn't in bed with them, and then if progressives could get equal airtime, we wouldn't have to talk about these things. But since Hillary Clinton and that wing of the Democratic Party still runs the Democratic Party and is still essentially, they pull the strings of the corporate media, we still see Neera Tanden on MSNBC and CNN. We still see James Carville. We still see Paul Begala. We still see Jennifer Palmieri. We still see Robbie Mook. All over corporate media. The same people, frankly, who ran probably one of the worst campaigns in American history and lost to a friggin' orange orangutan doofus. Let's be real. So here's what I have to say. I've interviewed Susan, and you know what? Last time I checked, Susan Sarandon could vote for whoever the hell Susan Sarandon wants to vote for. And Susan Sarandon could endorse whoever the hell she wants to endorse. She never endorsed Donald Trump. She never urged people to vote for Donald Trump. It's an easy, it's a distraction. They're trying to distract you. They try to blame Susan Sarandon. They try to blame Jill Stein. They try to blame, Jimmy Dore or other progressive media figures. And they don't want to look in the mirror. And they want to still regurgitate the same exact politics that has gotten us to this point. So I, for one, I'm on Team Susan Sarandon. Big fan of Susan Sarandon. Would love to interview her for my podcast. Love her movie. I think she was fantastic. In The Client, one of the most underrated movies of all time. You ever watch The Client? Yeah. Oh, terrific. Love The Client. There you go. Javi Bustos says it. It's a big club and you ain't in it. George Carlin. Very true. Very true. So, moving on from one set of lies and warmongering to another. So after the Syria strikes, first of all, Defense Secretary Mattis, one day before we dropped 100 Tomahawk missiles on Syria, said we don't have firm evidence that Bashar al-Assad was behind these attacks. So one day before we dropped these missiles, we didn't have evidence. The inspectors still hadn't gone in yet. Yeah, it's interesting. Nicholas says you're being cut again, Jordan. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but every single time I get to like a decent amount of viewers, and every single time like I start talking about U.S. imperialism and fake evidence and all that, all of a sudden my stream starts buffering. I don't know. Very odd. I mean, YouTube sent me a very lovely email for passing 10,000 subscribers, so thank you very much, YouTube. After you've been suppressing my content and other independent media content for the last year and a half, 2 years, I digress. And thank you to Jimmy Dore. I did get a huge uptick in subscribers. Many people didn't even know I was back on YouTube because YouTube's not making our videos deliver. They're not delivering our videos. Princess Fluffy Cake says, dude, Jamal just got cut midstream earlier today. Pretty disturbing to witness. Well, listen, some people don't like it, but I'm going to keep it real. Part of fascism, part of the rise of fascism is censorship. So the bottom line is this. YouTube could do whatever it wants. My business partner and I, we are behind the scenes trying to build a media network, hopefully launching this summer. We do need investors, so if you're interested, email jordan@proton.com. Email jordan@proton.com. But judge us on our content. Judge us on our content. Don't suppress content. YouTube or any of these outlets should not be picking winners and losers. They shouldn't be elevating CNN and these other establishment outlets and suppressing independent media. And I've tried my best not to talk about it because I don't want to come up like I'm making excuses. It's happening to many more people than just me. So it's not about me. But when you censor my channel or other people's channels, you're not just censoring rants about Hillary Clinton. You're censoring very important reports on the Flint water crisis or water contamination in other places or black people getting murdered around the country. So YouTube is supposed to be YouTube for the people. Anybody could create a YouTube channel, and based on their delivery and their content, they rise or they fail. So I hope that this improves. I hope that suppression doesn't continue. Because let me tell you something. Not going to get into it. Don't love how things ended with TYT, but I'm damn happy. I'm damn happy to be in the position I'm in right now. I'm damn happy to be reporting again, and this time with my vision and nobody above me to tell me what to do or what not to do. But it is harder to get off the ground if people don't even know you're going live every day, if people don't get notifications that you're live. Jimmy made a point. YouTube made this ridiculous video saying, oh, we don't want to spam subscribers. We don't want to spam subscribers, so we're not going to send subscribers your videos, or we're not going to notify subscribers all the time. Why the fuck are they subscribed if they, of course they want to be notified. What nonsense is this? We don't want to spam our subscribers, so we're only gonna notify the subscribers who are really into your content. Well, first of all, who made you? Who made you the judge and the jury on who wants our content and who doesn't? I think if they subscribe, they want the content. Go figure, right? If you press the subscribe button, they want the content. If they don't want the content, they press unsubscribe. Go figure. YouTube made a very popular, a very efficient system. Roger said, Jordan, I don't have a credit card or PayPal. Then send me kisses, Roger. Or hugs. I'll take either. We're gonna figure out a system where people can send checks and things like that. It could get a little complicated with that, but we'll figure something out for people who don't have credit cards. But I mean, they're literally they're freezing. I don't know if it's YouTube. I don't have evidence that YouTube is buffering my stream or freezing my stream. All I know is that every time my view count goes up, every time I'm about to get to a point that's very critical of the US government, or maybe not so critical of Russia, all of a sudden, Jerry Ross, one of my biggest trolls, says, figured you take kisses and hugs from men. You know what, Jerry? I happen to be heterosexual, but yes, I'll take kisses from anyone who wants to give it. Well, let me refrain. Not from anyone. But I will take goodwill and love from anyone who wants to give it, because this country is corrupt, Jerry, and there's too many people like you who can't see the forest from the trees. And I love you, Jerry. I appreciate you trolling me on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, at this point, you're trolling me in my dreams, Jerry. But I appreciate it because you're loyal. You're loyal. You stay trolling me. Even though I'm not at TYT anymore, even though I'm like starting from the ground up again, you're still with me, Jerry. But please, Jerry, stop watching Fox News. Please, Jerry, stop watching local North Dakota propaganda. Please read Listen Liberal, Thomas Frank's book. Anyway, Jesus, you dream about me? Jerry, don't start rumors. I'm not dreaming about you. Sometimes I have nightmares. All right, so this was a long wind-up to the next story. And again, if you like what you're seeing right behind me, in about an hour, I'm going to be doing a video chat with patrons, where we're going to talk about my company. Did you know that I announced the name of my new network? Did you know that? Here's the new name of the new network we're trying to launch. Let me know what you think. Do you like the name? Status quo? because I think this country does need a status coup. I think we need a coup d'etat of the status quo. And let me be clear, I'm talking about a non-violent coup d'etat. I'm not talking like coup d'etat. I'm talking journalistic coup d'etat. And by the way, the Patreon that you're funding now, that's not for me. That is going to become the company Patreon. Once we launch officially, it's changing from Jordan Sheridan Reports to the Status Coup Patreon. So you are funding the beginnings of the media revolution. So, of course, after the Syria strikes, nothing happens in this country without Russian trolls, right? So according to the Pentagon, oh, I can't make it up. Pentagon claims 2,000% increase in Russian trolls after Syria strikes. What does that mean? I mean, before I even read the absurd USA Today story, I have to mention, what does that even mean, a 2,000% increase? How are they even measuring this? This is becoming like, this is the Twilight Zone, right? They've been saying that Russian trolls are the reason that Bernie Sanders' campaign got so much bigger. It was really the Russian trolls who elevated the Russian Bernie Sanders. It was the Russian trolls that have infiltrated Black Lives Matter and made that movement bigger. It's the Russian trolls that have infiltrated Standing Rock and made that bigger. Well, considering I was on the campaign trail and probably covered about 25 to 30 Bernie Sanders rallies, I didn't see anyone holding Russian flags. I didn't see anyone with vodka, maybe in their pocket, but not out. I didn't see any comrades from Russia. I didn't. I saw in Washington Square Park, I saw 30 to 40,000 people inside the park and the surrounding for a historic, record-breaking rally Bernie Sanders had in New York City. He had 30,000 in Seattle, I think it was. When I was at Standing Rock, I don't know, in between the tear gas and the rubber bullets being shot all around, I didn't see any Russians. I didn't. I've covered Black Lives Matter marches. Didn't see Russians. Saw black people, white people, old people, young people marching for black people and their rights. Edwards says, stop McCarthyism, peace, not war. I agree. So let's read about how the Pentagon measures the 2,000% increase in Russian trolls. The Pentagon claimed a 2,000% increase in Russian troll activity on social media following the U.S.-led missile strike against Syria Friday night. Spokesperson Dana White said in Saturday's Pentagon briefing that the activity escalated during the 24 hours following the strike. Quote, the Russian disinformation campaign has already begun. Oh, boy. White did not detail how the Defense Department calculated that figure, but said the Pentagon would supply, quote, the facts moving forward. I'm sorry to laugh because this is not, it's not a laughing matter. We dropped 100 Tomahawks on Syria. This is an act of aggression. It could lead to retaliation, so it's not a laughing matter. But literally, USA Today is just printing. The Defense Department did not actually detail that calculation, but said the Pentagon would supply the facts moving forward. What? You know, I remember, I'm 31. I was born in 1986. And in 2002 and 2003, I kept on hearing and I kept on reading reports that, you know, we're still looking for those weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So, you know, we're still looking. We're still looking. But, you know, we're still going to just go to full-scale war because they'll greet us as liberators. And you had CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and New York Times and Washington Post and Associated Press just breathlessly, just regurgitating whatever the Pentagon, the CIA, the FBI tells them. At least in this USA Today piece, they're not even hiding it. Have you ever seen anything like this in media? White, the spokesperson, did not detail how the Defense Department calculated that figure, but said the Pentagon would, quote, supply the facts moving forward. Well, USA Today, while you just simply regurgitate what nonsense the Pentagon tells you, you know what happens? This headline, the Pentagon claims 2,000% increase in Russian trolls. It goes then to the Huffington Post. It goes then to the Daily Beast. It goes then to Mother Jones. It goes then to the Atlantic. It goes then to Politico. It goes then to Axios, and on and on and on and on and on. And before you know it, this is fact. It's another talking point for the Democratic establishment to use to deflect on the fact that we have legalized bribery in this country. And the real reason Trump won wasn't because of Russian trolls. It's because Hillary Clinton herself. She lost. Too bad. Is there evidence that, like, there were Russian trolls and propaganda and fake Facebook groups on social media? Yeah. You know what else? You know what other fake accounts there were on social media? You know what other paid trolls there were on social media? You ever hear of a guy named David Brock? He ran a super PAC for Hillary Clinton called Correct the Record, and literally had an army of paid trolls to put out correct the record for disinformation. You know, this army of trolls, they don't only work on correcting political information, they even worked on me personally. You want the behind the scenes? Here we go. Obviously, there was a false allegation made about me at the end of last year. It is false, to make sure you're aware of that. All of a sudden, I started seeing the same exact tweet from like 200 to 300 accounts. Adding me to the list with like Harvey Weinstein and Mark Halperin and all these vile men who actually were guilty of very, very, very violent and criminal acts. And all of a sudden, I started seeing them from the same accounts that you see boosting David Brock, that you see boosting Neera Tanden, that you see boosting Peter Dow. Isn't that interesting? So Correct the Record, they do great work. So they are paid trolls, meaning bots on the internet that send out disinformation about Bernie Sanders. They've attacked Nina Turner, Susan Sarandon. But it's the Russian trolls that are the problem, because we're living in a Cold War reenactment. Share blue. And press this share button. Let's get this out to more people. So, I mean, honestly, I don't really get headaches. I got a migraine from all this nonsense. Between Hillary Clinton's lack of self-awareness and intellectual dishonesty, to the Democratic establishment attacking Susan Sarandon for Syria bombs, to now the Pentagon literally saying there's a 2,000% increase in Russian trolls after Syria strikes. And what's the evidence we have? How do we measure that? We're not going to give you the details, but, you know, we'll supply the facts moving forward. Can you imagine if I, Jordan Chariton, or Jimmy Dore, or Democracy Now!, or The Intercept, or any independent progressive media reported that, you know, there's a 5,000% increase in bot attacks against Bernie Sanders after he won a primary, or after something good for the progressive movement. Can you imagine if we reported that and we didn't explain how we came to that number? We didn't tell you what's behind the measurement. We don't tell you where we're studying, where we're looking. They'd be calling for our heads. But the Pentagon, well, they said it, so let's print it. The same Pentagon, by the way, who's about to give I think it's a $10 billion contract with, take a guess. Take a guess. What organization, what company in America is going to get a $10 billion contract with the Pentagon? I think we got some smart people in this live stream. I'm waiting, folks. Who's getting a $10 billion contract with the Pentagon? Amazon. Who owns the Washington Post. The same company, by the way, that has a $600 million contract with the CIA. So the Washington Post You better believe they're going to print whatever the hell the Pentagon, the CIA tells them. It's not Raytheon, but Raytheon and Boeing stock price is up right now. I wonder why. We don't have a media in this country. We have public relations professionals masquerading as journalists and doing stenography for oligarchs, plutocrats, fake and corporations. And you know who pays for that? You know who pays for that? The residents of Flint, Michigan, the residents of East Chicago, Indiana, the people of St. Louis who are being murdered at record rates. Not the people, the black people, the black men specifically. Because what's actually happening doesn't get out. That's the truth. That's why I'm so passionate about independent media. That's why I'm so passionate about reporting in the field. And, maybe, it's your choice, right? So if you want to help fund me to launch a network, great. You know how to do it. If you want to fund other people, great. I just say fund real journalism. Whoever you think is real journalism, fund those people. I hope it's me, because I really want to get out on the road as much as I love reporting from my apartment with duct tape behind me. I think it's pretty badass, actually. I want to get back on the road, and I need the funds to do that. But we don't have real media. We just have stenographers just literally regurgitating what the Pentagon tells them and the CIA tells them. You literally have media just reporting, oh, Bashar al-Assad gassed his people, when Bashar al-Assad has won the war. The Syrian rebels, aka jihadists, were negotiating with the Syrian government to end this. And all of a sudden, Assad gasses his people? It defies common sense. Common sense. It defies common sense. So we're dropping the media. They just put people on to regurgitate that we needed to do this. I wish somebody didn't catch that, but you caught it. Freudian slip. Gentle ginjet. But literally, you had the media just reporting that Assad gassed his people with zero evidence. The inspectors didn't even go in. Lee Camp and Max Blumenthal did a great video over the weekend. I believe it's on Lee Camp's channel, Redacted Tonight. I mean, I don't know any objective person who's not corrupt who would say it's clear at all that Assad gassed his people. But NBC News regurgitates it, and we're off. So there you have it, folks. According to the Pentagon, 2,000% increase in Russian trolls. What the evidence is, we'll fucking tell you later. Leave us alone. And I got one more story for you tonight. As I told you, if you arrived to this live stream a little bit later, earlier in the day, I did a breaking news live stream because, I wish I was making this up, but literally the governor of Michigan, in a meeting with the Flint mayor, because the Flint mayor had reached out to the governor for a meeting to try and change his mind about shutting down the water bottle pods in the city of Flint. They have water bottle stations in the city of Flint, and the governor closed it, declaring the water is now restored and citing testing that, in my reporting, the testing is fairly, I think, dubious would be a generous way of saying it. So the governor, you know what the governor told the mayor of Flint, Karen Weaver, when the mayor tried to lobby him to reopen the water pods? Get over it. Not only her, but said people need to get over it. I'm not reopening them. You've been poisoned. Get over it. You can't afford bottled water. Flint is 45% impoverished. Get over it. Just get over it. You don't have a corporate media nationally or locally in Flint and Michigan that actually look into whether the water is safe, actually read the science and the test results. No. Why do that? I've been working on a report for 6 months now that goes in depth on that science, both on the federal level and the state. And you know what? One common pattern I find, when independent scientists are funded by the EPA, all of a sudden they start finding results that are lower And the lead situation starts improving after those scientists are funded by the EPA. Shocker. I also find that the state of Michigan Environmental Agency, the same one that kind of just forgot that minor detail to add anti-corrosion control chemicals into the water, they failed to do that. The EPA told them to do that. They didn't do that. That would be the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. Same agency that fucked up in the first place and then pretended there was no problem. Rob says, hey, Jordan, can I have a show on your network called Common Sex? We are looking for sponsorships. But no, you cannot. Jen will not be happy, my business partner. But literally, this governor, what else could you call him other than a sociopath? Tells the Flint mayor, get over it. Get over it. So, I want to read you a little story from the Detroit News. Detroit News. And as I always say, this is important whether you live in Flint or not, because if they get away with this in Flint, they're going to get away with it in your neck of the woods. The Detroit News editorial says, Flint's water is safe, but the trust is lacking. Flint's water is safe, but the trust is lacking. So, of course, the Detroit News is going to share their own investigation that looked into the science behind the declaration that the water is safe. And they're going to have independent confirmation, right? From the Detroit News. As Flint moves on from its water crisis, residents still lack faith in elected leaders who didn't do enough to prevent lead from poisoning the city's water supply in 2014. For months now, however, the water has registered normal lead levels and families could drink their water without fear. Oh my fucking God, these people. That's a tough task considering the betrayal Flint residents feel. And it's going to take a concerted effort by a city and state officials to continue providing the water's proving the water's safety. They must test the water at regular intervals and ensure, as promised, that all residents have access to filters, replacement cartridges, and water testing kits in their home as a precaution. Before I go on, I just need to, I cannot stress this enough, how dangerous our corporate media is. It's not just that they're lazy. It's not just that they're corrupt. They are reckless. So they're saying, they literally said, families could drink their water without fear. Without fear. I guess they didn't research or read the studies that have shown the water filters. Yes, there is wind in the background. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't have a soundproof studio. But did they read the studies that these filters that are no better than like a Brita filter go bad very quickly? Did they read the studies that these filters literally breed bacteria? Do you think YouTube is sending the wind? Just saying. It just suddenly got windy out here when I started talking about Flint. So the Detroit News, did they read the study? Did they read the study that these filters go bad quickly, or that they breed bacteria, or they don't stop all lead? But according to the Detroit News, let me highlight this for you. The water has registered normal lead levels and families could drink their water without fear. Up until last week, the state provided bottled water to those who didn't trust their tap water. But that program has now ended as of April 6th, which was a reasonable decision, given that Flint's lead levels are now the same or lower than many other cities around the state and country. So essentially what you have here from the Detroit News is literally taking a press release from the state of Michigan and just regurgitating it to the masses. Guarantee you the people that wrote this piece do not live in Flint, can drink their water safely, and I guarantee you they did not actually go through and read and study the test results from the state, the federally funded EPA scientists, or anyone else. Well, you know what? I did. And I'm going to give you a little sneak peek today of the story I've been trying to get published so you can see how absurd it is, what they're reporting, how it's not even connected at all in reality, and how the media is essentially accomplices to this criminal governor because the media is saying it is safe to drink the water there when it is not safe to drink the water there. It is not. So, in a study, in a recent study, let me get it. This study was done as part of a settlement agreement. Under the settlement agreement approved by the court and the concerned pastors for social action, the parties to that litigation agreed to establish an independent monitoring program to conduct third-party household tap water monitoring for lead. Hold on one second. No, that's not it. For lead in Flint. The data presented hereon were collected as part of this agreement for a 7-month period starting August 28th, 2017. The 7th month was allowed for sample collections as agreed upon by the parties. Okay, this is the part that's important. Sampling and analysis. The sampling procedure was in accord. Hold on one second. The sampling procedure was in accord with that described in the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's lead and copper rule. I want to dumb this down so everybody understands it. The lead and copper rule is an EPA regulation that basically says if you're taking water samples, 50% of your sample need to come from homes connected to lead service lines. So obviously lead service lines in the street, because obviously lead is going to leach off from lead lines. And the other 50% have to come from lead pipes or copper pipes that have some type of lead solder. So that's the lead and copper rule. So they say samples were accepted from the residents and taken by Michigan State University employees to a certified laboratory where they were analyzed in accordance with EPA method 200.8. All samples had a chain of custody form, blah, 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 blah. The laboratory also conducted quality control, yada, yada, yada. So, fine. 110 samples were retrieved, and by checking, here's the most important part, 110 samples were retrieved, and by checking the latest information available on service line materials, we determined that 18 of the samples were taken from houses that were later determined to not have a lead service line, or from houses that did have a lead service line, but it was replaced prior to sampling. Based on the available government records, the remaining 92 houses are Tier 1 residencies. What they mean by that, Tier 1 residencies, is what I just described. Tier 1 means the at most risk for lead in the water. So 50% have to be coming from homes connected to lead service lines, 50% have to be coming from either lead pipes or copper pipes with lead solder. So how are they figuring out? How are they figuring out which homes are connected to lead service lines and which homes aren't? Right? Isn't that kind of important? You got to verify in some way that the homes you're testing are actually connected to lead service lines. Well, a piece that I've been trying to get published, but I've had from a lot of corporate media outlets that I've been trying to get it published, we don't actually have the bandwidth to read this piece, all 10 pages of it on Microsoft Word chat. And for those of you asking, I don't have the ability to do a super chat because YouTube has not granted my monetization yet. Even though I have 10,700 subscribers, I still haven't been monetized by YouTube, so go figure. That's why, look at the sign behind me, folks. You got 45 minutes, by the way. Oh no, you got a little under 40 minutes till we do this patron-only, Patreon-exclusive video chat with me. Q&A, we're going to talk about the network, we're going to talk about a lot of things. Go sign up now, patreon.com/JordanChariton Reports, 7 o'clock. I'll be doing a video call with my patrons. So I want to read you just a little part of my investigative report. It hasn't been published yet. So you know what exactly these testing agencies, what exactly they are using to confirm, where the lead service lines are. So therefore, they could say we're testing homes connected to lead service lines, and therefore they could say we're following the EPA regulation. You ready? Here's my piece. According to the University of Michigan, Flint has an estimated 8,000 lead service lines. But Edwards, that's the independent scientist who's also funded by the EPA, so not so independent, only examined 17 homes connected to lead service lines, which again is a claim not backed up by plumber verification. as Harold Harrington, a plumber with Flint's with Flint's Union 370, told me. That number is highly questionable. Quote, I talked to the city of Flint Water Department, and they told me 80% of them from the main, street level, to the valve box in the yard could be lead. It's a hell of a lot more than 8,000, I can tell you that. And that was a comment he made to me. Okay. A broader issue with the University of Michigan's study. Oh, let me back up. So my piece looks into the federal testing that's been done as well as the state testing. The scientist who was funded $168,000 from the EPA, he said he found out that he made sure that he confirmed that his homes were connected to lead service lines by using a University of Michigan Flint campus. So there's a campus of University of Michigan in Flint. They did a study. It was a mapping study that basically mapped out where the lead service lines were in Flint. So he cited that study. By the way, that is the government's records. That's what the government is using, the state of Michigan and this federally funded scientist, to claim that they're testing lead service lines. That study. You want to find out about that study? Here we go. A broader issue with the University of Michigan Flint study that I just told you about was the volume of homes information that were missing. John Gleason, the clerk for Genesee County, which Flint is part of, explained his surprise when he found out the deficiencies of that study. Quote, when Dr. Kaufman came in here almost 2 years ago and was reviewing the water line situation, he admitted they had missed because they were working off index cards. There had been a void of between 11,000 and 15,000 homes that they didn't have any records of. Gleason told me about that mapping study. I was stunned. So that you're not lost, that study that he's talking about, that mapping study, is that University of Michigan Flint campus study. Kaufman is Dr. Marty Kaufman. He led that study. Got it? So the state testing and where that they're confirming, their ability to confirm that they're testing lead service lines is based on that University of Michigan Flint study. Want to know more about that University of Michigan Flint study? Okay. So, as Gleason said, there were 11,000 to 15,000 homes that didn't even have any records. Kaufman, who led the study, told me that his study used all available resources, 240 parcel maps the city had coded to reflect what the composition of service lines were, but these maps are only updated until 1984, and according to Kaufman, 11,000 to 13,000 homes service line information before 1984 were missing. Quote, this is an on-the-record quote from the person who ran that study, the same study that the EPA-funded scientist, the same study that the state of Michigan is citing to say we tested homes with lead service lines. This is what he told me. 11,000 to 13,000 homes had no code for service line connection at all. This is missing. The city had recorded all of its information on 3x5 index cards, like an old library system. And we looked at those, and a lot of them were in pencil and unreadable, and we decided not to use them. The city had also recorded the individual parcel maps, meaning each set of streets had a map of the property lines drawn. And it was within the rectangle of where the parcel was, they had a code of C for copper, or C to L, copper to lead, or an indicator for galvanized pipes as well. It was on that basis that we produced where the lead lines were. But Kaufman acknowledged that many properties' information were discarded as unreadable off the index cards. Compounding matters, many homes changed their service line years after being built without annotation of the change documented anywhere. Quote, there could have been, Kaufman said, regarding the possibility of homes that, based on their age, are suspected to have lead service lines, but could have had the lines changed out to copper or another material with no records of such a change. Kaufman acknowledged having concerns about his study missing a large swath of lead service lines. Quote, yes, we do, because again, the records were only updated until 1984. Plus, we had all those unknown records, and as you say, not necessarily good information on what kind of updates were made. Gleason condemned Edwards, the EPA-funded scientist's declaration and study. Quote, I think it's haphazard and in the situation we're dealing with, irresponsible and neglectful. Science is based on facts and evidence. If you're not walking down the basement stairs and looking at the piping in that house, you can't say it's factual or scientific. It doesn't meet the basic definition of scientific. So that right there is just a little part of the story I've been trying to get published. So this is complicated stuff. It's not simple stuff. So let me try to boil this down in as simple of a term as I could boil it down to. Boil is the wrong word. Let me try to break this down for people who might not understand all this. The testing being done for that testing to meet the EPA regulations for water testing, you have to be testing the most at-risk homes for lead. Obviously, the most at-risk homes for lead are homes that get their water from lead service lines in the street. So if you need to test the most at-risk homes for lead, obviously you want to make sure that the homes you're testing are actually hooked up to lead service lines. The only way to confirm that without a shadow of a doubt is to have licensed plumbers go into the basement and look. This scientist, the EPA-funded scientist that declared the water normal, the state of Michigan, who did its own testing, they did not use plumbers to verify that. The state of Michigan, I believe, used plumbers for 2 months, and then they stopped using them. They based their claim that they followed the EPA's lead and copper rule. They based that not on using plumbers, but on citing a University of Michigan Flint study, a mapping study on wherever lead service lines, where I just showed you on the record, this is not something I made up, I spoke with the gentleman. On the record, he basically told me his study is flawed. I'm not attacking him because he was working off of index cards. I have on the record the guy saying this study is flawed. We're missing about 11,000 to 15,000 homes. Yet the government, the state, and the federal based their testing on this study. In English, that means there is no professional verification that was done to make sure that the homes they are testing are actually homes connected to lead service lines. Gentle Gingit says, Jordan, isn't it kind of narrow-minded to focus on Flint to this day? While we know that there are thousands of other sitters with similar problems, it seems that this is a systemic issue. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. I won't say who, but I did have an argument with someone at the Young Turks about that very same issue. That person didn't understand, why do you want to keep going back to Flint? There's 3,000, Reuters did a study, there's 3,000 other cities with contamination or worse lead levels than Flint. And my response to that person is the same thing I'll tell you. First of all, I'm not an octopus, so I certainly can't go to 3,000 cities. I think I'd be dead probably after 10. Can't go to 3,000 cities. So that's number one. Number two, I've always said this. To me, this is not just about the city of Flint. Obviously, I've gone to East Chicago. I've gone to North Carolina. If I was still at TYT, I would have. My plan at TYT was to take a water contamination tour to several cities. Obviously, that didn't happen. I'd love to do that if I can get back in the field. But why I keep focusing on Flint, and by the way, if you follow this YouTube channel, I've reported on water contamination in several other places too. But why I keep talking about Flint? Flint is ground zero for this, folks. If they get away with this, if the government in Michigan gets away with poisoning its people, then covering it up, pretending the water's now fine, that is the blueprint for all the other communities when this comes knocking on your door. Maybe it's not water contamination. Maybe it's something else. But if we take the camera off Flint, if we take the attention off Flint, then it becomes normalized for the government to poison its citizens. You want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they didn't do it intentionally? That's fine. Maybe they didn't do it intentionally. Maybe it was just horrific negligence. But the response has been intentional. That's for sure. That's why I keep talking about Flint. I'd love to have, 25 tentacles and be able to go to every contaminated city. Your support, your guys' funding is going to help me do that. By the way, I don't know how else to say it, this network is not going to be the Jordan Sheridan Network. This network is going to have other reporters. It's going to take a lot more than me, folks. My dream scenario is to have 10, 20, 30 fearless reporters that eventually they'll surpass me. Contrary to popular belief, because some people think, I'm some egomaniac, this isn't about me. I want to help get the truth out. I want to help deliver justice to those who are being ignored, to those who have been forgotten by our corrupt corporate media. That's what I want. I want to be able to hire other reporters that have that same mentality. They don't need to have my style. They don't need to be me. We don't need more than one me. Frankly, one of me is enough, frankly, as my mother tells me. But we need media, real media. We need journalists, real journalists. I will get this piece published. Either I'll self-publish it or I'll get somebody to publish it. And I could write a book, honestly, on the efforts to get it published and the responses I've gotten, which have shown me even more than I ever knew how corrupt and terrible our corporate media is. All I got to say, folks, from the reporting I've done, I've been to Flint 9 times. I've talked to, at this point, on camera and off, over 100 residents. I've talked to water experts. I've talked to plumbers. There is no objective person that's not being funded by an agency that would tell you the water in Flint is safe. Gentle Ginjit says we need real people power, political, economic, and it won't have it under capitalism, Jordan. Do you see me cheerleading for capitalism? Hell no. Joel Sass says, okay, done. I'm a patron. I love seeing you in Michigan. Joel, God bless you, Joel. I'll see you at 7 o'clock. I'll see all of you at 7 o'clock. I need to save my voice. We're doing a video call at 7 o'clock. This is your last chance. Let's see how many patrons we got. We are at, as we buffer, we're at 295. 295. If we can get 5 more, that's a nice round number. At 7 o'clock, we're going to be going live, a private Patreon call. We're going to talk about the new network. We're going to talk about a lot of other things. So I hope you could join me. Thank you for watching this long-ass live stream. Thank you for listening to my voice. And for those who have subscribed and signed up, thank you. You are how I'm going to get back in the field. You are how we're going to launch Status Coup. Thanks, and have a great night.